right, good morning, everybody out there. Or at least it's morning for me when I'm making this video, and then it'll be several hours of uploading by the time you all watch it. But this is my class video for my John Jay College of Criminal Justice Intro to Guitar class for April 13th. So I hope you all had a nice holiday little break there and holiday weekend, despite the challenging circumstances that we find ourselves in with the continued concern about the coronavirus and staying at home. But anyway, I hope you and your families are still healthy and safely at home there. So as you all know, the schedule for the course and the John Jay in general has been changed a bit. They've changed this week into a regular class week as opposed to a spring break due to all the changeovers. So this is our next regular class after the little holiday break. All right, so we're going to get into some important stuff today about what you can expect for the remainder of the semester and important dates going forward as far as what will be due and quizzes and things that are coming up. All right, so let's talk about that first. So the remaining essential dates for the rest of the semester. And then, as we've discussed previously, and I think it's been working well, you're going to email me after you watch these two videos. Be sure to watch part 1 and part 2 for all our class videos. There's going to be important stuff. Remember, our classes are an hour and 15 minutes, so not getting up and walking out of class 20 minutes early, but watching both videos, right, on the day that they're posted. And then you're going to email me a couple sentences just saying that you watched the video for the date and one thing that I mentioned in today's class. So continue to do that. Do it every class day, but do that after you watch both of these videos. And that's been working well. So dates going forward. Been enjoying watching the midterm videos. So I'm seeing a lot of progress since we started in the semester from most all of you. So that's great to see. So I'm glad to see your faces out there. It's been a while, and seeing that you're still playing the guitar and working on improving on all this stuff. So that's great. So the grades for the midterm will eventually be on Blackboard. You'll be able to see your grades by the end of the week this week. I'll definitely have them up there. If you have not posted your video for the midterm, be sure you do so right this week, because remember, that's 20% of the grade, so that's definitely essential. And then email me like some of you have done if you had any problems uploading. We'll figure out another way for you to get me the file, but most everybody was able to upload it fine to that Blackboard discussion board format. All right, so that was the midterm. Be sure to get your video up there if you have not already done so, but most people have. And then going forward, so our next date, and you're going to want to maybe pause the video and get a pencil, something that you can write these dates down or into your phone calendar, or you can get out your actual syllabus and then kind of change the dates that you need to going forward, all right, because this is going to be really important, but make sure to write these down. So the next thing, we're going to do a little switching around. The dates are pretty much going to stay the same for when things are due, but we're going to switch a couple things. So the next, today being April 13th, we're going to have regular classes today and Wednesday, the 15th, regular classes next week on the 20th and 22nd. So we'll have class videos for all those days, Monday and Wednesday, this week and next week. And then we're going to make April 27th, instead of that being the concert report being due, that's going to be our quiz 3. Same format, uploading a cell video of you playing the songs for quiz 3. So that's 2 weeks from today. Remember, we generally have a quiz every 2 weeks in this class. we're going to be dropping one of our quizzes, right? So instead of 4 quizzes over the course of the semester, we're only having 3, plus the midterm, the paper, and the final. All right, so that's going to be April 27th, 2 weeks from today, is going to be the next thing that that's due, that you're graded on. That's going to be quiz 3. Just playing. Remember, there's no written format anymore for this online distance learning. So it's just going to be playing. So I think that's going to definitely improve people's grades if you're keeping up with the practicing here. But that's April 27th, 2 weeks from today. Instead of Guitar Styles Concert Report due that day, that's quiz 3. And then the concert paper will be due 1 week after that, where it currently says quiz 4. So on May 4th, that's when the concert paper is going to be due, and you'll just email it to me, a PDF of your paper. So let's talk about that. We'll talk about that in a second. And then lastly, the final is going to be a few days after this. This was our regular last class day, but we'll have the final now on that Monday during what was exam week. It still is exam week, essentially. So the final now is May 18th, 5/18, which would be the Monday after our last regular class day. And that's going to be the same format again, uploading a cell phone video of your playing. So really those are the 3 remaining components of the grading for the semester. Quiz 3 on April 27th, 2 weeks from today. The concert paper, which we'll talk more about the week after, on May 4th is going to be due. And then the final on May 18th. That'll be the last thing, obviously, for the class during that exam week after our last regular class day. All right, so as far as the concert paper, obviously we can't go out and see live music, as I mentioned in I think our first video when we switched to this online format. There is no live music, right? The live music world, sadly, has been put on hold. A lot of us musicians are completely out of work, if that was your sole income, which is the case for many musicians out there. There is no performance opportunities until this virus clears up. So there's going to be, instead of going out and hearing live music, sadly, there will be a few choices for videos you can watch on YouTube. So I'm going to choose the videos, right? Somebody had a question about that. So there are going to be 3 or 4 options that I'm going to put up on Blackboard. I'll have those up later this week. And then you're going to pick one of them. I'll probably put up 4 choices from some different styles. There'll be one from blues, a jazz, maybe a classical guitar, etc., maybe a rock video. And they'll be each one will be about an hour long, so it'll be the equivalent of a set of live music. So it's not just one song video like what we posted on the Guitar Styles things. This will be a full set of a concert, a live concert, right? So it'll be something easily watchable on YouTube. One set of music from an artist that I choose that I think will be a really good example of great guitar playing and plenty to write about. All right, and then other than that, remember the assignment for the Guitar Styles Concert Report is in the back of the syllabus. So that's going to have to be amended a little bit, obviously, because we're not going out to see a live concert. But most of it is going to be still be the same. So you want to write a 3-page double-spaced paper. Very important that you make it as well written as possible. So I think that's one of the most important things that you work on while you're in college is your writing skills. So it should be well written, grammatically correct, paragraph format when you change the subject, start a new paragraph, all that good stuff. That's really one of the most important skills for you to be improving while you're a student in college, is your writing skills. Whatever career path you take in life, your writing skills will always be important, right? So, so that'll be the concert report, 3-page descriptive paper not about your opinion, why I did or did not like this It's what we call an objective, rather than subjective is your own opinion. We all have very different opinions about our musical taste and so forth. This is an objective, descriptive paper, setting the scene, describing the musicians in the band. So we'll talk about, I think, on our next concert video, more detail about our next class video, we'll go through really specifically what I'm looking for in that paper. But consult the syllabus, everything except the fact that it's a live concert, and obviously interviewing them if possible, that's all out the window. But most of this is going to hold true in terms of what you're going to be writing about. But I'm going to supply links on Blackboard to the probably 4 choices for a concert video. So it should be enjoyable, just watching an hour of music, taking some notes while you watch it, things to mention, song titles, band member names, things you notice. Basically anything we've covered in here as far as guitar technique, picking wise, chords, soloing, string bending, vibrato, all that stuff. Anything related to what we've covered in this course is what you want to focus on, as well as setting the scene of the concert, etc. So we'll talk more about that, but that will be due on May 4th. Just emailing me a PDF of a 3-page concert paper. All right, so those are the dates you can expect going forward, all right, for the remainder of the class. And then before we get into the playing for today with the new stuff, we're going to get into the 5th and 6th strings, a new batch of songs. Talk a little bit about tuning from the class or from the midterm videos that you guys posted. Some of you definitely were quite out of tune in your videos, so just make sure that we're clear on what you should be doing to get yourself in tune as best as you can. That's part of the class, right? And then part of learning an instrument is being able to tune up and be in tune. Not going to sound good, right, at all, unless we're in tune, or at least as close to in tune as we can. So remember, there was that tuning video. We learned the 5-0 system. 5-0 on the 6th string, 5-0 on the 5th string to the open 4th, 5-0 on the 4th string to the 3rd, 4-0 on the 3rd string to the open 2nd, and then the 5-0 again. That's one system that we learned. There's a video for that on Blackboard that I posted. You'll find for tuning. If you're using a tuning app on your phone, which I definitely have been recommending since the beginning, you can get a free tuner app. I think a lot of you have. But you got to make sure you're using it correctly. So that's what we're going to talk about here. So the tuner app, you got to make sure that it's reading. Any of the tuner apps, and there's many different ones. It's Guitar Tuner or a different one. It's going to give you a letter name when you play the string. The tuner app is going to give you a letter name and then a little meter, some kind of a meter that you want to get right in the center. It might turn green when it's right in the middle. But most important is to make sure it's reading the correct letter for the string. So you got to know the open string letters to use any tuner. So remember, low to high, E, A, D, whoops, D, G, B, E, E, A, D, G, B, E, low E to high E. So you got to know the names of the strings. And then what we're missing, I think a few of you, is when you're using the tuner, make sure it doesn't say a sharp symbol. Some tuners can be what we call chromatic tuners, where they're not just the notes for the guitar, they're all 12 notes. So you got the flats and sharps in there as well. There's 12 notes in music, 12 different notes before the next octave repeats on the 12th note. So that includes all the sharps and flats. So make sure, say that we're tuning the G string on your guitar, that would be the 3rd string open. Make sure on the tuner app, it doesn't say G sharp, right? Is this symbol here we haven't gotten to quite yet in this course, but it's coming up soon. That little, it looks like a pound sign, is the sharp symbol. So if the tuner says G sharp and you're playing, that means you're too high. G sharp would actually be the 1st fret. A sharp symbol adds raises the note by 1/2 step. So all you need to know for now is that if the tuner has the sharp symbol next to the string that you're trying to tune, that means you're too high. So tune it back down until it just says G. There's no sharp next to it. If it has this little symbol, the flat symbol, let's see that, so it says G flat, that means you're too low. All right, so G flat is a 1/2 step, or on guitar 1 fret lower than G. It's not the same note, right? G sharp is not the same note as G. It's a totally different note, 1/2 step, 1 fret higher. G flat is a totally different note than G. It's 1/2 step lower than G, which in this case would be a 4th string, 4th fret. All right, so if it says G flat next to the note that you're trying to tune on the tuner app, you're too low. So keep tuning up gradually on the tuner until it just reads the letter itself that you want to tune. There's not a sharp symbol or a flat symbol next to the string. If it's B, C, E, A, D, G, B, whichever string you're tuning, make sure it just says the letter name. There's no sharp symbol next to it, no flat symbol next to it. Okay, that's super important, or else you're going to be way out of tune, right? If your G string is tuned to G sharp because you weren't aware of this, and we haven't really discussed this at this point, not something we've had a chance to get to in this online format. So most people got the hang of this, and a lot of tuners don't have these sharps and flats in there. They just have the guitar notes if it's in guitar mode, E, A, D, G, B. So in that case, it's not going to be a problem. But if it's set to some kind of chromatic tuner mode, make sure it's not reading a sharp or flat. And then obviously make sure it's reading the correct letter for the string you're tuning. Now, if you're tuning up and you're just watching the meter but not paying attention to the letter, you could be passing the correct note, going way too high, and then break a string. All right, so that leads us to a few of you have had strings break, or a couple of you have had, a few of you I think have talked to me about you've had strings break on your guitar. And that's going to happen as guitarists, but I can tell you that I would say definitely probably 90% of the time when it's students in their first year of learning guitar, the reason for the string breaking is that you're tuning it too high on that string. You passed the correct pitch and you kept going, and then eventually the string will break because you tuned it too high. Not always, so maybe yours broke just, you weren't doing anything tuning wise and it just broke when you were playing. That will happen occasionally. But for the stuff that we're doing, we're not really strumming hard, we're not bending strings in here. 90% of the time if strings break, it's because you tuned it too high accidentally. Either what we just talked about it, maybe you were tuning it to G sharp or D sharp or etc. You passed the string, or you were tuning it, it was supposed to be a G string and you accidentally kept going in the tuner until you got up to A or B and then it popped. So be really careful when you're tuning not to tune the strings past the note that you need to get to for the string. That's probably 90% of the time that's why they're breaking, is because you've accidentally tuned it too high, whether you realize it or not. Not always, as I said, but definitely most of the time that's the culprit. So be careful when you're tuning, usually just small turns. And then some of you, if you were way too low, you could have been tuning almost a whole octave low for your string. So at the beginning, or in each class video, I give, which we're going to do now in a second, I'm going to play this open strings for you. So match them by ear to what I'm playing each class. You can do it that way too. You can pause the video after I play that note for the string. In this case E. Make sure your guitar sounds like that. Alright, so use your ears too. So use a combination of the app, but also use your ears. Alright, so that you didn't use the app incorrectly and you're way out of tune. Not going to sound good if you're tuned to wrong pitches. In fact, it'll sound really strange when you play chords and stuff if one of your strings is to a different note. So that's tuning. If you have any questions about that, let me know. If you do break a string, remember it's not the end of the world. You can get new sets of strings easily. These days with the music stores probably being closed, online ordering would be the safest way to go these days, but anything, Amazon, eBay, Guitar Center, Sam Ash, and many others you could order a set of strings from. So depending on what kind of guitar you have, if you got an acoustic steel string guitar, you can get a set of light gauge phosphor bronze acoustic guitar strings, or you could order individually the string you broke. Say you broke the 5th string, you can order a 5th acoustic light gauge guitar's 5th string A open, and you'll see a bunch of different options pop up. Individual strings probably in the range of $1.50 or so each. For a whole set of 6 strings, $6 or $7 you could certainly find, maybe plus a couple bucks for shipping. So probably $8 or so for a whole set of strings to be delivered to your door, or individual strings. That's a good idea. I would recommend everybody have an extra set of strings if you can swing it for the guitar. I would just go ahead and order a set for whatever guitar you have. Good to have as a backup just in case you do break one. And in fact, I think next year I'm going to make that one of the course materials, is that everybody just has an extra set of strings for whatever type of guitar they have, in case you break one. Alright, but strings will break occasionally just from playing, but that, for what we're doing, that's really quite rare. So it's almost always because you've tuned it too high, accidentally. So any questions about that, let me know. But that is part of the class, is to be in tune, right? To know how to tune your guitar. Only way it's going to sound good. All right, and then let's get to the playing today. So we're going to get to some new exercises here in the book. So we're going to get to the 5th and the 6th strings today. So page 30 and 31. So let's look at that now. I'm looking at notes on the 5th and 6th strings. 30, page 30 in the node. Let's start there. So that's going to be a couple of the notes we already learned. The good news is we've already covered these first couple on that A natural minor scale that we played. The first 3 on that 5th string are these new notes in the book. So that A we've learned already. 5th string open A, which is on the 2nd ledger line below the staff, right on the line. As we know, that's 5th string open, and that's the note A. So be sure you can recognize that one. And then we also learned this B, which is on the space below the 1st ledger line, B. So play that one. That's on the 2nd fret. So we learned that in our A natural minor scale as well, B. And then C, we played a bunch from both of those newer scales. C on the 5th string 3rd fret, and that's on the 1st ledger line below the staff. We call that middle C, right in the middle between the treble and bass clef, at least for guitar notation, that's middle C. So that's the first 3 on the 5th string, A, B, C. So play those. So you got to know the letter name for each of them. You got to know where they are on the guitar and where they are in the staff. And for these are the lowest notes on the guitar we're getting to in standard tuning, so there's going to be a lot of ledger lines, right? They're going to be way below the staff with these ledger lines. All right, so that's the 5th string, A, B, C. We've actually already learned all 3 of those in here, but now we're going to be using them more in the pieces and the songs here going forward. And then on the 6th string, we're learning a couple new notes today. So we learned the 6th string open E already. In one of the exercises, we got to that one. So that's the lowest note in standard tuning, and that's way down here. 3 ledger lines, 1, 2, 3, and then the space below that 3rd ledger line. That's our low E, 6th string open E. So make sure you're noticing it's on the space, that E. And then F is on that 3rd ledger line, F. And that is a new note today. That's on the 6th string 1st fret. So play that one, F. Right on the line, on the 3rd ledger line, F. And then this G is on the 6th string 3rd fret. That's a new note today. Notice that's the lowest note in our G chord that we've already learned. So just remember that root in the G chord that we've been playing for a while now is the note G on the 6th string. So those are the new notes now in this next section going forward. So A, B, C on the 5th string, and then E, F, G on the 6th string. And as always, playing them is not going to be the challenge so much as learning to really memorize how they look in the standard notation. That's going to be the more significant challenge for you, is learning to master them as far as where they appear on the staff, right, in the treble clef. For what we're learning in here, standard notation in classical guitar, recognizing them in the staff now in the songs going forward. So these next two exercises are really based down in those low notes, a lot of these bass notes. So we call those the bass range of the guitar, the lowest notes we have, the 6th and the 5th string. So let's look at exercise 14, and this one is going to be all thumb and just on the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings. So let's try this one. It'll be a new one today, exercise 14. So let's try this real slow. I'm going to get out a metronome for this one. And let's go way down to 30 beats per minute while we're just practicing recognizing these notes. So real slow. Alright, so starting on the 5th string, open A. Here we go. 3, 4. Second line, 2, 2, here comes D, and back down to C, 2, 3, 4, last line, B, here's that G, E, 2, 2, and then A, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that probably seemed quite hard for most of you, right? Because it's using some new notes. So as we should know by now, don't panic if that seems hard. It will seem much easier after playing it a few times in a row and learning to recognize those new notes. But anytime we introduce new notes, got to go really slow and get those down. So you might want to pause the video there if you weren't able to keep up with those notes at all, and just kind of go through it one at a time and practice recognizing those notes. Okay, that B we talked about on the space, 5th string 2nd fret, etc. That first note on the 2nd ledger on A. All right, but you're going to have to go through that slow. It's going to definitely take some practice to get it down for recognizing these new low notes. A lot of ledger lines involved, so you might want to pause it just at that super slow tempo, or even just out of rhythm, go through it once and just play all the notes. But let's try it again at that super slow tempo, 30 beats per minute. All right, so looking ahead, as soon as you play one, look on to the next one. Fifth string, and you can pause the video at any time and go back to where the notes are introduced. A, B, C, just look at them up there at the top of the page. Okay, that was our C, E, F, G. All right, and then once we start, do your best to keep going without stopping, as we know. And then you can kind of go back and fix what you missed. So here we go. Let's try it again all the way through from the top. Exercise 14. 3, 4. 6 string E, A, B, C, 2. Look ahead. Now here's the B. String here, F, 2, that's a C, 3, 4, keep it in rhythm though, B again, let's B on the space, So this one's in the key of A minor. It's really centered around that A. Alright, so no sharps and flats is typically the key of C major or A minor. No sharps and flats, which we'll get into our sharps and flats shortly here before we wrap up. You guys will know what's going on with those. But this one's in the key of A minor. Hear that minor sound and certainly the chords once you hear with the accompaniment, and also your last note in the melody is an A, it starts on the A, so those are good hints about what the key center is, as well as the key signature, which is no sharps and flats. Alright, so that's A minor, and then let's talk a little bit about the right hand. So some of your right hands in the videos have been drifting into some bad habits with the right hand, which will certainly happen. I haven't had a chance to see you to badger you about your right hand for a month or however long it's been. So don't let the right hand drift into some bad habits as far as the picking. So we want to keep that right hand when we're picking with our fingers. Maintain that good classical guitar technique as much as you can, right? It will really improve your ability to play any style if you get the fundamentals of classical guitar technique and using your fingers and the left and right hands efficiently and correctly. So remember, that's just in terms of the right hand angle. Make sure this forearm is resting on the lower bout of the guitar comfortably. So it's just resting there. My forearm right about there is making contact with the lower bout. Is if I'm playing the low strings, I move from this way, from the elbow, so I'm always maintaining that same hand position. Now this is the biggest thing I noticed with some of you who even maybe played the exercises well. They sounded good, but you're using all rest strokes. So remember, the fundamental difference between our strokes is either a free stroke or a rest stroke. And the difference is with the free stroke, your finger actually cleared. If I'm playing the first string E open with a free stroke, on my follow through I'm actually going to clear over the second string. Alright, which is what we want to do, is free stroke. Most of what we are always doing on guitar is free strokes, although we do rest strokes at certain points when we want to really emphasize a note in the melody to bring it out. We will use that rest stroke. It's a little louder, so it kind of makes a melody note more pronounced. But in general, for in here, you want to be practicing your free stroke. That's what we've always been focused on, and that's what we do most of the time with the style. So you should be clearing the strings, the one string below the note that you're playing. You should be, your finger on the follow through should be going over that string. In order to do that, your knuckles have to be really over the string you're playing. You can't be kind of flat fingered like this. You're just naturally going to go into that rest stroke, which is what we don't want. You want to be up higher, wrist higher off the strings, and then your knuckles are essentially over the string you're playing, so that you have room to clear with a good free stroke over the adjacent string. So make sure you're doing a free stroke. Don't do everything rest stroke like this, where your palm is, some of you, your palms have kind of flattened out, which you might be used to if you used a pick. This is a different technique, so the wrist higher over the strings. So there's a good couple, 2 or 3 inches of clearance between the strings and where my palm is. Right? So my wrist is a little bit bent here, a little bit arched, higher off the strings than what you're doing, and you should be right over the string you're playing with your knuckles. And then, most important is the thumb, not to do a rest stroke with your thumb. Some of you are doing all rest strokes with your thumb. So all the notes that you're playing on the 6th, 5th, and 4th string, you're doing the rest stroke. So the same exact principle applies to the thumb. So you don't want to come to rest on the string that's one string higher than the one you're playing, which is called a rest stroke. You should be doing a free stroke where you're clearing over the string. So if I'm playing the 6th string, open E, I want to be clearing the 5th string, not coming to rest on it. So I should be doing a little bit of a scoop, and then I'm following through on the outside of my fingers. So I'm basically aiming to come into the side of my index finger with my follow through. Not this, not a rest stroke into the 5th string and resting there. Alright, so don't do that with your thumb. Do all free stroke. You're clearing over the string. That's one string higher. So make sure you're doing all free strokes in here. And then your hand position is set. You're not resting the fingers on the guitar. You're not resting anything on the wood, right? You're doing a free floating. Only thing you're resting is the fingers on the strings. Alright, so review your right hand, making sure we can always be tweaking and improving our technique with the 2 hands. Alright, and then the left hand thumb, not way off to the left. It's about the 2nd fret when we're in the 1st position here, but wherever my middle finger's lined up, that's where I want my thumb to follow. Alright, so let's do 14 one more time. We'll speed it up slightly, and this one will take some practice. We're not going to get it up to speed today. And we're not even going to add the accompaniment yet. I'm just going to be doing your part with you today as we introduce this one. So again, number 14, we'll do it slightly faster at 40. But if you need to stick at that slow tempo, pause the video, go back to that one until it's comfortable and you can get those notes. So here we go, exercise 14. 3, 4, A. Free strokes with the thumb. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, at the last line, right? So the third line, that's where that G comes into play. That's the only G in the piece there. So you know that's coming. Circle it with a pencil if you're having trouble in that spot. So any spot that you're having trouble with in any of these exercises, remember, circle it with a pencil. Definitely an important way to practice. And then you can just play that measure by itself. If it's that first measure in the third line, just do that a couple times until you got it. It's amazing how effective that is in just sorting out in your brain. You anticipate that measure is coming. Oh, that's where that G is. I know what to do there. So let's try that, just the third line, first measure. So that's B. And notice he changes the fingering here slightly to use 4 for the left-hand finger on that C, just to make it a little smoother. Not a huge deal to do 3-3 there, but the reason being that you don't have to use the same finger can sometimes be a little awkward when you speed up the tempo, so it's a little smoother to switch to 4 there. One of the exceptions to our whatever fret we're on, use that finger rule down here, first position. So here we go, first measure of the third line. Third line, first measure, 3, 4. Let's do that again. Third line, first measure, 3, 4. And let's do that whole third line now. Last line, 3, 4. So be working on that one, exercise 14 this week. And then let's look over at the Fandango on the next page. So this is another good one. Both these are really good exercises for really getting these bass notes down on the guitar, really getting straight all these low notes on the 6th and 5th strings, getting those clear so you can read those in the in the songs. So this Fandango, again, has got a very Spanish quality to it. There's a lot of classical guitar pieces with the Fandango, which is a type of Spanish dance rhythm. So this one is in 3/4, right? So 3 beats in a measure. Also in A minor. So no sharps and flats in here. So we got a couple 8th notes, so it's going to be a little harder. In fact, there's a whole string of 8th notes in the third line. So this one will definitely take some practice over the course of the next couple weeks to get. So let's just go through the first 2 lines first, really slowly. But it's a nice sounding one when we speed it up. Sound like up to speed, but that's not the tempo we're going to be playing at any time today or on Wednesday. So let's go all the way down to 30 and just do those first 2 lines slowly. So again, we're going to start on the 5th string A, and we're going to use all thumb on these 2 lines here as well. 2, 3. Low E, B, F, 6th string first fret. And that's just like the beginning again here. Well, not quite. A little different. So we'll stop there. So make sure you're getting those 8 notes in the 3rd measure, right? That's going to be 1, 2, and 3. So it's easy to rush, to speed up when you're doing these, working on these really slow tempos. So that's why I suggest using the metronome. If you got one on your phone there, a free metronome app, I'm starting at about 30 beats per minute, and that'll restrain you from speeding up, so you can really get the rhythms steady, as we talked about. And then only when you can play it all the way through, really do you then speed it up. Maybe 5 clicks faster, then try it there for a day or two, and then another 5 clicks faster, etc., as we know by now. So let's try the same thing, the first 2 lines at that slow tempo. 2, 3, fandango. 2, 3. C. It's actually got a 1 there. And then 2 and 3. 2 and 3. Pausing there. Now, if we look at that 3rd line in the fandango, it looks scary there, all those 8 notes in a row. But that, if we notice what we're playing there, it's our friend, our A natural minor scale. It's the first 6 notes of that scale you've played already for A natural minor. All right, so you've already played that, and the same thing in the 3rd measure. It's the same 6 notes of A natural minor scale, but essentially it's just playing all the notes we know in order from 5th string open A up to F on the 4th string. So after you practice it a couple times, not too hard to speed up. And eventually I would suggest doing this with index middle. Even though it's on those low strings, we, to speed up our scale-wise type of passages, we still will use index middle even on these low strings. You can play a lot faster and smoother than trying to pick every one of those with the thumb. So for today, it's okay to use all thumb, just getting the notes here. But I would say on this 3rd line, on all the 8 notes on the 3rd line, actually, let's just say starting today, you might as well alternate index middle on those. So that'll be good to get the index and middle into the act, so it's not all thumb here. I know we've been concentrating on low bass notes for the last couple weeks, but those type of scale-wise passages, when we speed it up to a faster tempo, index middle is how we want to alternate those. Now on the 3rd or the 4th measure of that line, it's the same notes essentially in that scale, but they're not in order, right? So they go. practice to get. So we want to do that really slowly. So let's just do, before we get to that, the first 3 measures of the third line at the same tempo that we're doing really slow at 30. But this is going to be 8 notes now, right? So try index middle here, third line. So it's 1 and 2 and 3, and so don't rush these. 2, third line. 1 and 2 and 3 and 8. And the same thing again. 1 and 2 and 3 and see that? So it's just playing up your A natural minor scale. Again, same thing. Third line of the fandango. 3, 4. And then you can use thumb. And then index middle. Let's look at that 4th measure, and that's probably the hardest spot in the piece. I would circle these 2 measures. So it's going to go starting on D on the 4th string. And we go 4th measure of the 3rd line, 3, 3. Practice, right, to get that third, same spot, fourth measure, third line. 3, 4. Right, so that's what you're going to want to practice for that fandango, is really kind of do that third line by itself until you're comfortable with those 8 notes groupings, particularly the last 2 measures in that line. That's the hardest spot in the piece, so circle that. So let's try the whole thing through at this slow tempo once. So we're not going to try to speed it up today. We're going to keep it slow and steady and just get the notes. It's in 3, 4 again, so 2, 3, I'm playing your part. So we started back at the top, if I didn't make that clear. So back at the beginning of the fandango, from the beginning. 1, 2, 3. Pause there. I realized in all my talking about tuning today, I didn't give you the open string notes, although they've been on every one of the other videos. So let's do that now before we do this. So make sure your notes match mine. But you can always check your tuning by going to any one of the class videos. I will play my open strings in sequence slowly, and use your ears. Make sure your notes for your open strings match mine, like we talked about at the beginning. So here we go, this is my E, first string open, and then the second string B, so get as close as you can so it sounds just like mine, and then third string G, fourth string D, so that's this one here. Make sure you're tuning the right tuning peg when you're doing this, and then the fifth string get stuck. A, and E, 6 string, open. Alright, so be sure to, we're still going here, but make sure you watch part 2 of this video if it cuts here in a minute here, because that's where we're going to get to the steel string and do a new chord, a C chord today. So we're going to still get to some new stuff with the chord strumming. This video concludes shortly here for part 1. Make sure you go to part 2, which is where we're going to do some strumming and talk about some of the problems you had on the strumming for Knocking on Heaven's Door. We'll try to fix. So make sure to watch part 2. Alright, so make sure you're in tune, and now going back to one more time through the Fandango. 2, 3. First fret. And then get ready for our A natural minor scale fingers. Minor scale. And here's the hard part. Last line. And you're out of the woods. G, don't mix that one up with E, right? G is 2 ledger lines, space below, and then F, E, 2. Alright, so those are the 2 in the book that I want you to be focusing on this week, exercise 14 and the